actually start recording. I am recording now. Alright. Let me shine some light on here. It's not much light, but today it's very cloudy today. But okay, it's okay. Cloudy's good. Cloudy's good. Let me just do this. And let me do this. And let me do this. There we go. Hopefully that doesn't change anything. I don't think it did. Okay. Let me get in a good position. Let me get my glasses on because I need to do that. Man, this is too precious. So Chubby's never has like a comfortable place to sleep. Oh, she just readjusted herself because Pirata's always like in her way, sort of. But like, look at her. She's in her little she's in her little cocoon. Look at my fuzzball right there. And she's been perfect. She's been right there for like the past hour. All right. Let's get this moving on. All right. So we're at chapter 3 right now. I just want to see how much I want to read today. I know. So cute. I'm just like, so cute. And she's snoring a little bit. It's great. Okay. Right? Alright. Anyway. Yeah, I think I just want to read 30-ish pages. But we'll see how far I get. Ugh. All right. So, yeah, chapter 3. Something's gone bad at the snack shack. Yeah, chapter 3. Something's gone bad at the snack shack. Can you carry me? Pumpkin asked. May rolled her eyes at Pumpkin. I'm already carrying Kitty. Pumpkin scowled. Summer Kitty stirred in his papoose, which May had fashioned out of some curtains she'd pulled from the train. He peered over May's shoulder and waved his tail at Pumpkin contentedly. After 2 days of traveling, they were still following the train tracks due north. As the telegram had promised, May felt neither hungry nor thirsty. Look! Beatrice pointed to a circular building up ahead and to the left. It was the long-promised Poltergeist Corral. It looked like someone or something fierce had shattered a hole right through the front wall, which was enormously high and at least 3 feet thick. Um, they stuck to the tracks, studying the corral curiously as they floated and walked by. It looked like it had been abandoned for 100 years, but flashing signs still hung crookedly from the walls. Poltergeist corral, poltergeist tricks, throwing things at poltergeists. Pet the poltergeists. Kitty let out a growl. Poor poltergeists, May said. The captain made a loud clicking sound with his mouth. Poor poltergeists! Pah! Horrible creatures! They kept moving, and soon the corral was far behind them. Um, when they when they tired, the group when they tired the group camped along the deserted tracks. In the dusky shadow of a crumbling billboard advertising the carnival at the edge of the world. In the picture, an enormous spiked black Ferris wheel soared above a park full of lights and attractions. Countless specters and ghosts smiling at one another as they tried to as they tried their luck at games or as their vaporous orbs blew. Let me say that again, because goddamn throat. uh, in the picture, an enormous spiked black Ferris wheel soared above a park light. But okay, let me say this again because it's really I'm getting so lost right now. In the picture, an enormous blade. Oh my fucking god. Okay. In the picture, an enormous spiked black Ferris wheel soared above a park full of lights and attractions. Countless specters and ghosts smiling at one another as they tried their luck at games or as their vaporous forms blew out of shape on rides. The billboard was torn and peeling in many places, but still displayed the words, "Ride the Tunnel of Terror! View the known universe!" For some reason, it reminded May of Lucius. All those spirits smiling and laughing made her think of the horrible fate he was probably enduring under the sea. "Why so sad?" Captain Fabio asked, staring hard at May. May squirmed. Out of her group of new travel mates, she felt the most shy with Fabio. "I was just thinking of someone. A boy." "Oh, your boyfriend?" Fabio oozed, raising his eyebrows and twirling his mustache knowingly. "No, he was a boy I met in the after before I met you and Beatrice. A specter." Captain Fabio and Beatrice looked at her expectantly. "I sort of got him sent to South Place." "Ay, Dio mio!" Fabio exclaimed. Beatrice gasped. "She really didn't get him sent there," Pumpkin said defensively, twirling the half of the never to be dearly departed necklace he and May shared. "It just happened. He got hit by seawater." May gave Pumpkin a grateful grimace of a smile. Fabio twirled his mustache and cocked an eyebrow at Beatrice. Anyone who touched a drop of seawater was sent immediately to South Place, the realm of dark spirits far under the sea. "I'm sure you didn't mean to," Beatrice offered to May. She looked at Captain Fabio to confirm this. Eternal torment by ghouls and goblins is not so bad, Fabio said. Could be worse. How? Pumpkin asked, biting his finger, curious. Fabio searched the sky above his head. Er. Then he scowled and threw up his hands. I will think of it later. May tried to feel reassured, but later that night, all her mistakes stuck to her mind like a briar on a pair of tights. If she had never talked Lucius into coming out of the catacombs, where he'd been hidden safely for so long, he would have never been hit by seawater, and it made her wonder what other mistakes lay ahead. She looked at her companions, all asleep but for Somber Kitty, who stared at her drowsily, purring softly and keeping watch. uh, Kitty only blinked at her and whispered, meow. May didn't understand what he said, but it amounted to something like he believed in her, much more than she believed in herself. May tried to picture herself as the hero the Book of the Dead had described. May Ellen Bird, known far and wide as the girl who destroyed evil Bo Cleaville's Reign of Terror, resides in Brewery Swamp, West Virginia. But in her mind's eye, all she could see was the patchwork blanket on her bed back home. The crack on the inside wall of her closet that looked like a question mark. The gathering of 4 pine trees by the trail in the woods, where she used to lie on the pine needles, pretending it was the warrior queen's bed. She dared not think of her mom right now. It would have made the ache too big for such a small body. She thought only of these little things that she missed. She reached out and stroked Somber Kitty. She recalled proudly his surprising victory against both the bogey and his horrible dogs, the Black Shucks. If May knew one thing, it was that no danger at that moment would have surprised her. Ellen Bird sat poised over the pile of laundry in May's closet, holding a pair of May's black overalls. Today was the day she had gotten up the courage to do her missing daughter's laundry. What had made her pause were the tiny green bits embedded all over the overalls, from knee to the ankle. Curious, she dug one out with her nail. A briar. Ellen rubbed the briar between her thumb and forefinger. Abruptly, she stood and approached May's bedroom window, peering out at the tops of the trees. She was thinking of a night May had come home from the woods, saying there had been something bad there. Ellen remembered the sight of May, curled up in her blankets like a caterpillar, her overalls discarded on the floor. It had been her daughter's wild imagination, hadn't it? Hadn't it? Ellen rubbed the briar along a minute longer. Then, heaving a long, suffering breath, she dropped it into the basket by the floor and walked out. If she's not in the mountains, there are a lot of other places my mother could be, Bee said, hopefully, looking behind her to make sure May was there. They had gotten an early start that morning, but the mountains only teased them from the horizon, and it was hard to tell how much progress they actually made. Hold on. Okay, I don't want to see that. Where was I? They had gotten an early start that morning, but the mountains only teased them from the horizon, and it was hard to tell how much progress they'd actually made. She could be in one of the coastal towns or even in one of the cities. The Ever After is a big place. Her eyelashes fluttered thoughtfully. Even if I did put up signs all over the city of Ether and send telegrams to the Board of Spirits with unsightly diseases in all the major cities and stop every typhoid sanitarium in the South. Beatrice had been looking for her mother for more than 80 years, and she had covered a lot of ground. But I do hope that she's in the mountains. Beatrice had not stopped thinking out loud since they left Clevelville. Her her mind wandered from all the strategies she had used to locate her mother to where she might have gone wrong or missed something and how she might fix it. I'm sure she must be somewhere else. I haven't checked yet. Pumpkin, not paying attention, hummed to himself happily as he drifted along up ahead. Damn, now the sun is coming up. Occasionally falling behind when he occasionally falling behind when he thought he saw something shiny or interesting, then zipping to take the lead once he ascertained it. Then zipping to take the lead once he ascertained it was nothing of interest after all. Fabio licked his thumb and thrust it in the air. This good Italian trick to find how long we have to go, he said, holding his thumb against the wind. Then his shoulders slumped. It is telling me there is long way to go. Isn't that a trick to find out if it's going to rain? Beatrice asked. Beatrice asked. Fabio stiffened, as if realizing with a start that she was right, and he swatted at an imaginary fly, pretending not to have heard her. When B didn't fill in when B didn't fill in the silence, he cleared his throat and interjected a poem. The plains is like my lover's eye. She makes a good pizza pie. I didn't know you like I didn't know you liked poetry, Captain, May said kindly. Yes. Fabio stood erect. What you are wondering is true. I was born with heart of poet. The genius words, they come from inside. I know not how. I know have girlfriend, he added with a wink, by way of explanation. This about the lover is not a true story. All up here. He tapped his head. Outstanding, Beatrice said. The girls scanned the girls grinned at each other as Fabio cleared his throat and began another one. This time comparing the endlessness of the plains to the endlessness of his love for his dear Uncle Bonino, who played the flute. As he listened, Sombrikitty let out a low, pensive meow. He regretted at that moment that he understood more English than he spoke. May understood, as Fabio finished his poem, that they might have discovered what was worse than being tormented by ghouls and goblins for all eternity. By the end of the day, there were more worrisome things on everyone's minds. The mountains didn't seem to be any closer, despite their long day of traveling. Maybe we should turn back, Beatrice said, uncertainly. The highlands rolled along in every direction with no sign of change. It's not too late to head back to Ether. At least we know how far back it is. May considered. This this as she looked around. Alright, so let's go here again and let's go. Let's go. Okay. So right now, I mean, they've gotten pretty. I mean, the train tracks, if you look at the map again, they seem pretty close to North Farm. They've already passed the Hideous Highlands, and I think they passed Everville too. Oh my god. Okay. Hold on just 1 second. Oh, what the fuck? No. No, no. What the fuck happened? I pressed something I didn't want to. Oh, I pressed that. Well, I'm gonna mute this for an hour. It's a group chat that I'm muting because they're being obnoxious. 2 new messages. What's happening with what? Yeah, I see what the group chat. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, now that I think they gotta get through the petrified pass. Let me see. Yeah. Yep, that's where they are right now. Somewhere in between there. Okay. Where was I? Before I started a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't want to. I was at May considered this as she looked around at the empty rolling landscape. She shoved her hand into her pocket and grasped actually wait, let me read back a little so you know where I am at. Oh, okay. How do I sound now? I should sound better. Do I sound better? Do I sound better? Okay. Cool. I think I was going like this. I had the book to my face, so that's probably why. No, 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 no. Yeah, I was explaining why I sounded muffled. I had the um the book right like in front of my mouth. That's probably why I sound muffled. All right, let's get back to the story. Um, yeah. Maybe we should turn back, Beatrice said uncertainly. The highlands rolled along in every direction with no sign of change. It's not too late to head back to Ether. At least we know how far back it is. May considered. May considered this as she looked around at the empty, rolling landscape. She shoved her hand into her pocket and then grasped the manila envelope. It seemed the lady should be sending her some kind of signal of what to do. There had, but there had been nothing. They moved on in silence, each thinking their own thoughts. The mountains were specks in the distance, or, from the mountain's perspective, May imagined she was a speck in the distance. Her hope faltered inside her, realizing this. I made my room into Hawaii once, May said, trying to distract herself with warmer thoughts. I made a lagoon and pasted paper trees on the walls, but the inflatable pool I was using for the lagoon popped and it flooded the room. She got so mad. Beatrice smiled appreciatively at May's story. Hold on. There's a word that I don't know how to say, so I'm gonna look it up real quick. Cotillion. Okay. I went to a cotillion with a purple bow instead of the pink one that matched my dress. Mother was very displeased. May grinned. One time I slept with my Halloween candy and it melted into my hair, and Mom had to cut it out. That, that was how she'd ended up with her short black bob. Before that, May's hair had been long and lustrous and down to her waist, like a wild forest child. They recounted other times. They recounted other times they'd made their moms angry, like when May flushed her toothbrush down the toilet, pretending it was a submarine, and the old pipes burst. Like all the times she'd been sent outside, dressed and combed, and returned with muddy quartz rocks gathered in her shirt, thinking they were as valuable as diamonds, hoping to spend hoping to spend them in Hog Wallow. Mrs. Bird had built a special shelf in May's room to keep them all safe. It made them almost forget. It made them almost forget. It made them feel. It made them almost feel as if their moms were just behind them, catching up and not possibly far away. Necromancy Nancy's snack shop, a sign had announced. A shell of a house perched on the rocky hill behind it, its doors all long fallen in. And its frame sagging to the left. Shingles had slid off its sides and lay in piles at its base. Sommerkitty gave the air a thoughtful sniff from his papoose as they passed the sign, and turned toward the shop. Turned toward the shop. If I get home, I'm going to behave better, May said, her eyes on the horizon ahead, where the faintest shadows of mountains formed. If I see my mother again, May mused, trying to pass the time, I'm going to tat a lace handkerchief for her. If I see my men again, I never ever gonna let them go. Fabio blurted out with emotion, then cleared his throat and tugged at the medals on his uniform self-consciously. Something smells terrible. Something smells terrible, May croaked, pitching her nose with her fingers. Beatrice drifted. Never gonna let her down. And desert you. Nice. All right. Beatrice drifted to the front of the doorway and wrinkled her nose. Pumpkin raised his nostrils into the air. Sniff, sniff, sniff. Smells like bananas. Whoosh! May flinched just as a teapot flew past her head. She stared at it as it went tumbling down the dirt. It had. Oh. Do I sound better now? Cool. Also, my dog is too cute right now. Hold on. Look at her. She's so comfy. Look at that face. Right? So good. Alright. Anyways. Um. Beatrice drifted to the front door and wrinkled her nose. Pumpkin raised his nostrils into the air. Sniff, sniff, sniff. Smells like bananas. Whoosh! May flinched just as the teapot flew past her. She stared at it as it went tumbling across the dirt. It had come out of one of the windows of Necromancy Nancy's. Oh no! Beatrice said, casting a look at Fabio. Pumpkin whimpered. Ay, Dio mio! Fabio said, backing up, his eyes pinned to the shack. Summer Kitty leaped from his papoose and hissed at the empty, gaping doorway. What is it? Shh! Beatrice hissed, taking May by the strap of her bathing suit and yanking her backward. Pumpkin zipped backward, too. Bay's eyelashes fluttered wildly as she quickly scanned the area around them. They're here. Am I far from the mic again? It's right here. Okay. I'm just gonna... Does this help? Does this help? Okay, how about if I just do this? Okay. If I just do that. Can you still hear me if I do this? Perfect. You think? Am I good? Oh my god. I don't know if it's from my end. Let me quit Discord for a second. Maybe it's on my end. Okay. Am I back? Am I good? Am I good, sir? I am waiting for your reply. A simple yes or no. Okay, I sound excellent. Okay. Do I still sound excellent from right here? Do I still sound excellent? Okay, cool. Did you still hear what I said though? What I read? Oh, okay. All right. All right. Bee's eyelashes fluttered wildly as she quickly scanned the area around them. They're here, she whispered. Fabio grasped the hilt of his sword. We are two being very still. They may be surrounding us. Who? Actually, I'm gonna readjust myself. Hopefully, you still hear me. I think I'm still good. I also need to. Come on. I'm just getting my charger because it's getting low on charge. My Okay, there we go. Uh. Okay. I'm just gonna start again. Who? May turned to stare at Bee quizzically. At the very same moment that a plate came shooting through the door, just missing her ear. Her hands flew to her face as a shrill cry rang in her ears. And then they saw it. A something appeared in the doorway of the snack shack. It didn't have a shape, really. It was just a glowing, lopsided orb of hazy light. And in its hazy arms, it held a jumble of plates, bowls, and candlesticks. Bibop bidum bibop didum dudum wadum choo. Sorry. I'm getting a little distracted. um Bip bip bop didum dudum wadum choo. A torrent of items came flying through. A torrent of items came flying at them from the doors and windows of the house. A bottle of shampoo threw up May from behind. Just as she turned, somebody pinched the back of her neck, then her cheek. Coochie coochie! Next to May, Beatrice crouched to miss the teacup. Run! Bip bop didum dudum wadum choo. The heck? Do I want something from the shop? No, not really. Sorry, brief intermission. My brother's like asking me, oh, the money. uh, mm, no, I don't want anything. Because I stopped eating bread at the shop, so I'm just like, I don't want anything. No. I can't think of anything. Thank you, though. Okay, back to the story. Bip bop, didum dudum wadum choo. Fabio pulled out his sword and began waving it in the air wildly as they sprinted forward alongside the tracks, dodging the rocks, butting out of the soil. Laughter and other sounds of delight followed them behind. So did Silverwell. So did Silverware. A butter knife missed May's ear by half a centimeter. A fork grazed Fabio right under his nose, combing his mustache. Gobble gobble gee, gobble gobble guy. What's happening? May asked, craning her neck to look behind her. She could just make out fuzzy, indistinct shapes, balls of mist and light zipping along behind them, occasionally oozing slime in long dribbles on the ground. Poltergeists! Bee yelled, clutching the sides of her head. Cover your ears! The group fled across the highlands, and the poltergeists followed. Over small rises and rocks, down furrows in the land. May, who'd already been ready to fall down from exhaustion, felt her legs going wobbly beneath her. She finally tumbled forward, thudding into the grass. Flavio came to a halt. Beatrice, Kitty now in tow, slammed into his back with an ugh. Pumpkin zipped behind a rock. May felt a pair of cold hands on her shoulders and a dribble of slime down her back. Gobble, 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 it whispered. Sha-na-na-na-na, a voice said. The voice sounded familiar. Diggy, diggy? The poltergeist from holding May's shoulder replied, releasing her. Well, gobble, gobble, gobble. Everyone gazed in astonishment at Pumpkin. He and the poltergeist looked like they were having some Everyone gazed in astonishment at Pumpkin. He and the poltergeist looked like they were having some kind of meeting. Finally, Pumpkin looked back at May and the others, irritated. Can we have some privacy, please? Bewildered, Fabio, Beatrice, May, and Kitty walked out 20 years away. A few minutes later, Pumpkin came floating over to them. They say they can help. Fana, fana, fo, fana, the poltergeist called over Pumpkin's shoulders. Pumpkin slapped his hands on his knees and laughed. What did they say? Beatrice asked. Nothing. Pumpkin cleared his throat, shooting a glance at Fabio's curled mustache. Just a joke. Okay, but what are they saying? May was starting to get annoyed. I told them we're trying to get north. They say they'll carry us to paradise if we want. They said the spirits are pretty brave. They might be able to help us get north. Hold on just a second. I need my lap desk because It's not doing much. You haven't been overheating like this computer when I've been recording. What is wrong with you? Okay. Alright. Bee, Fabio, and May looked at one another. They shrugged. Paradise didn't seem that bad. Didn't sound that bad. I don't know. Poltergeists are very unpredictable, Beatrice said. Hobble gobble. They say it's typical of specters to be so rude. They say they're a misunderstood and oppressed species of spirit that has never gotten the respect it deserves. Gobble gobble. In fact, Pumpkin translated, they have started the union against the defamation of poltergeists and suggest you could be held accountable for your comics. Everyone stared, disbelieving. Zippity doo dah. And they say, so what if they occasionally steal stuff and turn spirits mad and try to knock them out with heavy objects? That is their right as poltergeists. Pumpkin finished with his nose in the air. Everyone looked to May for a decision. Why are they willing to help? She asked suspiciously. Why us? Dippity-doo. Pumpkin paused. His wide, crooked mouth fell into a scowl. He looked at Somber Kitty, then sighed and muttered. They say because they like your cat. May looked at Kitty, who licked his paws casually, then at the poltergeists. She looked to the mountains in the north. I don't know. Somber Kitty! Oh no! Oh boy, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen to Somber Kitty? What's gonna happen? Oh boy, I don't know. Will he turn into will he die in this book? Oh boy, I wonder. Oh boy. Who knows? Who knows? Not me. I don't know. What if the poltergeists were liars, like John the Gibber had been? But then, what other choices do they have? I think of, out of all our choices, it may be the least terrible one, May finally said, looking unsurely at the others, who nodded in agreement. With that, the poltergeist hoisted them up into the air and started carrying them west, across the highlands. And that's the end of chapter 3. Now we're on chapter 4. Chapter 4, The Edge of Paradise. It was a couple of hours before the poltergeist stopped up ahead on the dusky horizon and began to gabble, leaping up and down. Their baggage, whom they let down now, looked over the rise and were greeted with an unexpected sight. A patch of scrubby, thin, glowing trees surrounded by a wide moat. Gabble, gabble! Pumpkin waved. Gobble! Without another gabble, the poltergeist sipped off, onto some other adventure. Everyone looked at Pumpkin. What? He asked self-consciously. We just had no idea you could do that. You said you could, but... May trailed off. Somber Kitty looked off into the distance and yawned, trying to appear bored. Pumpkin and May shared a smile that only they understood. It wasn't the first time Pumpkin had surprised her. He blushed. They all approached the edge of the moat, which was spanned by a narrow bridge, and tried to peer into the sparse scattering of trees on the other side. Paradise. Fabio cleared his throat. I have a poem about this. It is called Across the Moat I'm Looking to See What Is Cooking. It is like this. After they listened patiently to Fabio's poem, which was a sonnet in iambic iambic pentameter, May suggested they could cross the moat, but very carefully. If the poltergeist could attack them so easily, maybe others could too, and maybe they wouldn't be so friendly. She fastened her death shroud extra tight. She didn't want anyone spotting her as a live one and blowing their bogey whistle, which would summon him lickety split. Wait, what about Kitty? Beatrice asked. May looked down at her cat. There wasn't much use of her looking ghostly when he looked so very alive and well, kite-like. You're right, she said with a sigh, embarrassed. She could be so forgetful sometimes. Kitty, you're gonna have to hide out. Um, Kitty, you're gonna have to hide here until we find out what kind of spirits are around, she said. Meow. Kitty mewed softly and sadly, tilting his head to one side and giving May his best sad kitten eyes. But May shook her head. I'm sorry. Somber Kitty sneezed reproachfully. Then he curled up under some nearby branches. Meow, he said with finality. Everyone gave him a kiss on the top of the head as Pumpkin stood and watched, making jealous kissy faces behind their backs. Fabio lingered, stroking Kitty's ears. You stay safe, little kitty. Under Somber Kitty's watchful gaze, they each crossed the moat. Hold on. There we go. They each crossed the moat. Pumpkin insisting on floating directly behind May. Then they disappeared into the trees. The travelers made their way slowly through the grass. Yow! May whispered. Ow! Ouch! Pumpkin! She turned around. Pumpkin stood centimeters behind her, biting his fingers. Can you please stop stepping on my heels? Can I have a piggyback? No! May hissed. Can I go back and wait with Somber Kitty? He whispered. If you want. Will you take me? No! May, Fabio, and Beatrice said in unison. Pumpkin was silent for a few moments. Then he whispered, Can somebody hold my hand? May sighed, but she let Pumpkin slip his frigid fingers into hers. A few minutes later, they approached the last of the cluster of trees, obscuring what looked like a clearing. Oh, no. Fabio stuck out his arm theatrically, and they all came to a halt. On count of 3, we pull back branches and look. No, let me say that again. On count of 3, we pull back branches and look. Beatrice, however, had already pulled aside some branches. They leaned forward. The sight was breathtaking. In the evening starlight lay a wide veil, a deep sprawling valley of green grass that spread itself downward in a bowl toward huge, slate gray cliffs that climbed into the sky, and crashing down along the middle, breaking against the rocks in great puffs of white foam, was an enormous waterfall, glowing neon blue water rushing toward a large pool, where it crashed and foamed with deafening speed. Water slides burrowed smoothly into the rock, wound down the cliffs on either side of the falls, curling toward the lagoon below. Tiny purple and yellow nightshade flowers floated on the grass like polka dots on a green dress, along with the giant Let me say that again. Tiny purple and yellow nightshade flowers um, floated on the grass like polka dots on a green dress, along along with a giant trampoline and something that looked like a cannon. Tree houses dotted the trees around the field, and several tents were made with sheets and sticks were strewn across the lawn. A small breeze blew through the glowing grass. Ukulele music floated from some unknown spot, playing a sweet Hawaiian tune. Fabio wiped a tear of joy from his eye. Beatrice let out a long sigh. Pumpkin sneezed. Pumpkin sneezed. Um, uh, Pumpkin squeezed. Pumpkin squeezed May's hand tighter. May felt a smile in her heart. Just looking at the beautiful water had a peaceful, soothing effect on her. Paradise, she whispered. Suddenly, from the left, a knot of spirits their heads stuck with feathers, came barreling past the trees. Another group chased after them, shooting arrows and yelling wildly. Some were missing heads or arms or legs. Others were bent and twisted into odd shapes. Besides the feathers they had tucked in their hair, they wore aviator suits, loincloths, swim trunks, camouflage. Never and ever after had May witnessed such a ragtag group of spirits. As the travelers looked on, a figure bringing up the rear seemed to catch sight of them out of the corner of his eye. He skidded to a halt and aimed one of his arrows in their direction, peering at them through the trees. "Nobody move," he said. A white line of sunblock ran down the length of his nose. His green eyes sparkled wildly. He wore a pair of fluorescent orange shorts and an orchid printed t-shirt. He had a slight bluish tinge to his lips. After studying them a moment longer, he lowered his arrow and held a hand up in the air. "What's up, dudes?" May looked at the others, then back in the direction in which they had left Somber Kitty. Pumpkin gave her a little shove forward. Hi? The spirit thrust his hand toward May. "Name Zero." "The name's Zero." "I'm Maybird." May gulped, tightening her death shroud. "This is Beatrice, Heathcliff Longfellow, Pumpkin, and Captain Fabio." Zero directed his widening smile at Beatrice. "Welcome to paradise." Then he seemed to recall something. His mouth lowered into a frown. He lifted his arrow again, aiming it at them. "You're trespassing." And that is the end of chapter 4. Chapter 4. All right. Chapter 5 we go. Chapter 5. Okay. Ooh boy, what's gonna happen? Ooh boy, I don't know. Man, Chibi's is really comfy right now. Oh, bug. Oh man, what's gonna happen? Oh man. Comfy girl. Yeah, she's a very comfy girl. Alright, anyway. Chapter 5. Risk Falls. The travelers huddled together on a boulder in the middle of the grass, staring out at 100 or so specters who had gathered to catch a glimpse of them. "Oh," Pumpkin moaned, cowering behind May. Beatrice gave him a look that urged him to be brave. The spirits were a fearsome group. mostly young, all mangled or maimed in some way. By by the way they dressed, May picked out snake charmers, race car drivers, mountaineers, parachutists. To the to the right, those not curious enough to join the gathering occasionally hurtled over the edge of the falls, screaming and plummeting with a crash into the lagoon. A few shot out of the water. A few shot out of water cannons nearby. Zero levitated above the boulder beside them, as if he were presenting them for show and tell. Listen up, y'all, he bellowed. I caught these spirits in the trees, spying on us. We weren't really spying on you, Beatrice offered helpfully. We're trying to get to the north and... One of the spirits in the crowd waved his hands in the air. He was missing his lower half. Zero pointed to him. What's up? Where's the pizza? What pizza? Zero asked, looking around hopefully. Dude, I thought they were delivering a pizza. The lower halfless spirit and a few others muttered among themselves disappointedly, then trickled away. May hadn't even known specters liked pizza, but she remembered what Pumpkin's master Arista had said about old habits and how specters liked to hold on to them after they were dead. I ain't got nobody, Pumpkin nervously trilled. May nudged him hard in the arm. I caught these guys spying on us from the trees, Zero repeated to the spirits who were left. And you know how we changed our motto to members only. One goateed spirit with a bungee cord wrapped around his neck spoke up. Nah. Oh, hold on. Well, hold on just 1 second. I'll be right back. Hi, Josh. Was it busy or was it slow? Oh, it was busy? Then why are you here so early? Oh, that's probably bad. Dude, I know you love me. Are they coming back home too, or will they be home later? Oh, I see. Okay. Okay, I'm going back in my room. Juvies is in my room if you want to see her. Just knock first. Oh, God. Okay. Let me turn this back to where it was. It was right here. Okay. Nah. You're thinking of those members only jackets we got from the third hand store in Dismissal Hollow. We changed the motto to the more the merrier, remember? That's right, another spirit said, running her fingers along her long blonde hair. She was missing part of her face. It's the more the merrier, Zero. Oh, yeah. Zero scratched his head, thinking. I interrupted Spiky Deathball for this? Somebody muttered. The group of specters began to scatter. some running up the stairs carved into the hill that led to the top of the falls, some running over to a trampoline and leaping on it, doing levitating tricks high in the air. The group on the boulder began to fidget, realizing they weren't in as much trouble as they thought. Fabio twirled his mustache impatiently. Finally, Zero turned a winning, good-natured smile upon them, his gaze resting longest on B. Sorry for that, dudes. I got mixed up. We're happy to have you. Well, we don't want to impose, B said, blushing. Zero waved a hand dismissively and shook his head. No way! That's our motto here around West Falls. Come on, come all. Come on, come all. But I thought... Pumpkin stared, but May gave him a look that silenced him. Zero tucked his hands deep into the pockets of his tropical shorts. Actually, we don't have any rules here, but we do have parties. We're having one tonight. You should come. He winked at Beatrice, then looked around. You want a grand tour? You want the grand tour? He followed... Hold on. They followed Zero onto the grass and toward the lagoon. What is this place? May asked. Why is everyone all mangled? Zero laughed, his laughter bubbling out. Risk Falls is the premier destination for thrill seekers in the ever after. We all died in some kind of accident. That's how I got my name, in fact. I used to be called Arthur. Sorry, I got distracted. That's how I got my name, in fact. I used to be called Arthur. Zero was my score at the surfing competition where I died. Total wipeout, man. Zero gave the veil a sweeping, relaxing glance. We have a bunch of people who died going over waterfalls in barrels. They're like the backbone of the community. But it was the surfers. Zero winked and cleared his throat. Who founded the place. We also got skydivers, bungee jumpers, cliff divers, mountain climbers. Pretty mainstream stuff. He shrugged, his broad shoulders rolling back. Then you got the obscure stuff. Sword swallowers, fire eaters, crocodile hunters. He paused. He paused to watch a teenager paddle by with her barrel, and they nodded to each other. Zero turned back to them. Man, everybody's got a story. They followed him up a steep footpath along the side of the waterfall until they were about halfway to the top. Zero stepped onto the ledge and drifted to the left, disappearing into a gap between the cliff and the waterfall. This part's tricky for first-timers. May looked at B, who was staring at the back of Zero's head. When she noticed May was looking, she quickly looked away and then followed behind the curtain of water. Wow, Pumpkin sighed. Honeycomb through the rock face behind the cascading waterfall were countless nooks, deeply scooted out of the slate gray surface, as if they'd been balls of ice cream. Many of the hollows shone with warm blue light. Some were hollowed with hollow posters of surfers coasting down three-dimensional waves, or mountains or climbers scaling rock faces. There were tiki torches, enormous colorful flowers, and starlight conches. Sconces? Let me say that. Let me look up how to say that. Sconce. Oh, okay, yeah, sconces. Uh, there were tiki torches, enormous colorful flowers, and starlight sconces. Each entrance was hung with baboon curtains, and many of them were tied open. These'll be your rooms if you decide to hang, Zero said, motioning to the left. In each room, a hammock hung on either side of the hollow, with a small bamboo table on the floor and eat. Wait, gotta do that again. Yeah. In each room, a hammock hung on either side of the hollow, with a small bamboo table on the floor in between and a skull lamp decorated with paper parasols. A tiny skull wearing a flowered headdress on the bureau opened and closed its mouth, crooning a lilting Hawaiian tune. Sweet Lalani, heavenly flower. They kept moving, following Zero, to the top of the falls, which afforded a beautiful view of the stars crossing the sky, the Hideous Highlands, and the mountains in the far north. The telescope a telescope perched on the highest crag of the rock was turned toward the view below. We'd like to see if there's any trouble we can get into, Zero explained, nodding toward the telescope. If, say, there's a band of gulls we can sling ectoplasm balloons at, or a pickup game of skull hockey. Here, take a look. Wait, let me say that again. We'd like to see if there's any trouble we can get into, Zero explained, nodding toward the telescope. If, say, there's a band of gulls we can sling ectoplasm balloons at, or a pickup game of skull hockey. Here, take a look. Down to the south, May could just pick out the faintest hint of an absence of glow, a shadow hanging in the air. That's where they've been destroying towns, Zero commented, noticing the direction of her gaze. First thing to go were the lights. Now they're putting up Clevevilles, which don't glow at all. It's gotten bad over the last few months. May and Bee looked at each other. It was just as they feared back at Everville. Zero hummed a little song to himself. He looked perfectly at ease. Are you worried? May asked. Zero shrugged. Why? Well, what if they come for Risk Falls? She ventured. Dude, what's there to worry about? We're already dead. But the bogey, he can turn you into nothing by sucking your spirit through his fingertips. And Bo Clevel... May didn't quite know what Bo Clevel could do. Zero concentrated for a moment. I've heard of them. May stared at him in shock. He gave her a reassuring smile. Look, nobody's interested in Risk Falls. Bo can suck it. Hell yeah. Look, nobody's interested in Risk Falls. We're way at the edge of the world, and if they were interested, they wouldn't go through all the trouble of finding us. And if they did find us, well, he thought for a moment. We're not scared. We're the risk takers, remember? We're the bravest, boldest spirits in the realm. He studied Beatrice as he said this, as if to see her reaction. Her fine eyebrows had settled low into worry. May wanted to ask Zero what about all the spirits who were being taken away. Where were they going? Wasn't he scared for them? But Zero seemed so brave and confident. Maybe he knew better. She decided to keep her thoughts to herself. That night, making sure no one was following her, May snuck across back across the moat and spent a few hours stroking Somber Kitty so he wouldn't feel alone. She thought about the towns to the south, about all the spirits disappearing from them, and about the Book of the Dead. Meow, Kitty said, worried, which meant, don't you get the feeling that something evil is on its way? But May, not understanding, only sighed wistfully and rubbed under his chin. When May returned to Risk Falls, Pumpkin was asleep in her bed, his long left arm lolling off one side. May smiled, covering him with a blanket, though she supposed it didn't matter since ghosts didn't feel cold. The light was still on in Bee's nook. She was in bed reading her book on typhoid victims by the glow of the starlight. Hold on, just 1 second. Don't you want to take a break? May asked. I've just got to finish this one thing. The coolness of the water falling sent a nice breeze wafting in and out of the room. May fell back on a stool, kicked off her shoes, and let the breeze soothe her aching, dirty feet. When she crawled up to the bamboo curtain and looked down into the vale, she watched the inhabitants of Risk Falls singing and playing music, gathering around a bonfire in the green bowl of the grass. The laughter drifted up, just barely audible above the sound of the crashing water, and finally it all dwindled until only the sound of a tone, and finally it all dwindled until only the sound of a lone ukulele remained. Gosh, it's a nice place, isn't it? May asked. What's that? Bee said, looking up from her book. Nothing, it's just, it kind of feels like the rest of the world doesn't exist here. As if even the lady can't see us here. Beatrice nodded distractedly, then turned to the page of her book. May rested her chin on her hands, staring at the jolly spirits below. She was tempted to go on down there with the others, to laugh and talk and listen to the drums. But the outsider in May, the one from Brewery Swamp who never quite right. Ugh. Let me say that again. May rested her chin on her hands, staring at the jolly spirits below. She was tempted to go down there with the others, to laugh and talk and listen to the drums. But the outsider in May, the one from Brewery Swamp who had never fit quite right, kept her tucked safely into her nook. Kept her tucked safely in her nook. And that's the end of chapter 5. Okay, I think I can do this. Cool. All right. Now we're going to go to chapter 6. Chapter 6. All right, chapter 6. An invitation. Somber Kitty was curled beneath his bush, sound asleep, when he woke suddenly. He didn't know why, only he sensed something in the darkness. He sniffed the air, but whatever it was far away. The tiniest vibrations in the rocky soil set his whiskers bristling. Meow, he said softly. In the dusky darkness, he could not see what was on his way, but he knew it was coming. When May rose the next morning, more rested than she had been in weeks, the rest of the vale Vale was already awake. Spirits were sailing into the lagoon from all directions. Some were swishing down the water slides. A man in a wetsuit, scarred with a mark of a shark's teeth, shot out of a cannon and went careening over the sparse treetops. One spirit floated on an inner tube of the water, bedecked in sunglasses and holding a giant beach ball. It took a second glance for May to realize it was Pumpkin. He drifted up to the shoreline with on his inner tube. "Hey, May, can we move here?" May smiled at him, then scanned the area for Fabio and Bee. Fabio was starbathing on the grass in full uniform, his arms crossed behind his head. No, run later. Okay. I'm gonna readjust myself for just a second. Man, it's so cloudy. I just want it to rain. I don't want all this cloud and nothing to happen. Fabio was starbathing on the grass in full uniform, his arms crossed behind his head. Bee was talking to some spirits near the water's edge. "Well, if you hear anything, or if you see a woman who looks like she might have typhoid, please let me know. Even if she looks just a little peaked. Here's my tomb number." Beatrice whipped out a quill pen and a pad of parchment and scribbled down an address in ether. May kept walking up along the lip of the vale to a wide green field. Here, Zero and some others were playing hockey with the ball that looked like something out of a medieval torture chamber, all covered with spikes and shooting fire. Zero ran after it like a gazelle, knocking it to one of his teammates just as he caught May's eyes. He floated over. "You want to play? Spiky death ball's easy, especially if you get a good coach," he said with a wink. May shook her head. "Zero, the reason we came here is that we need to get to the North Farm right away. We were taking the train, but yeah, we saw from the lookout post. Tracks ripped up. Bummer." Zero stuck his hands in his pockets and bobbed his head a few times. "The poltergeist said you might help us." "Ah, moody little dudes, but they keep things interesting. They're always throwing stuff over the moat at us. Candlesticks, pots, and trying to drag us off to the Dead Sea. Sometimes we'll invite them for football, but they're horrible treaters." A group of spirits floated by, chasing the spiky ball. They disappeared around the side of the hill. Zero hardly noticed. Sometimes the only thing to do when they're acting up is to put them in a headlock, and then you give them a good noogie. They hate that. May wrinkled her nose. "A noogie? Yeah, you slip your arm around their neck and like this." "I know what a noogie is," she said. But Zero slipped his frigid, ghostly arm around her neck, sending cold chills along her skin. "Dude, there's an art to it. You really gotta lock your arms, like this, like so they can't get out. Then you take your fists, like this." Zero balled up one fist. "And press hard like this." He rubbed his fist into the top of her head. "And you gotta yell. Yelling is the most important part. Noogie, noogie, noogie." "Ow!" May squealed, slipping loose and giggling. Zero grinned. "Noogies. They're totally underrated. The poltergeists hate them." May smiled, but heavier things weighed on her mind. "Anyway, about going north, Zero scratched his chin. Well, we really can't take you there. None of us likes to leave the Risk Falls. None of us likes to leave Risk Falls. It's kind of a drag out there. Oh, May tried not to look crestfallen. She gazed down at her feet. Hey, don't stress, Zero said brightly. If it's that big a deal, we can send you by balloon. Balloon? Zero squinted. Sure, I don't see why not. We have one to raid the poltergeists with sometimes. We got it from some French dude. Used to be a major balloonist when he was alive. He left us to do aerial stunts for the Shakespeare Song and Dance Review. May immediately thought of Pumpkin. His dearest dream was to be a singer in the Shakespeare Song Dance Review. And you know our motto here at Risk Falls, Zero went on. Share and share alike. May stifled a grin. Come on, Zero said. I'll show her to you. May followed him around the side of the walls. May followed him around the side of the falls into a pretty glade overhung by rock. The balloon lay sprawled there, deflated. Its big straw basket sitting upright on the grass. The balloon itself was not what she'd expected. It was shaped like a giraffe. Zero noticed her surprise. French dude moonlighted as a clown for a while, he explained with a shrug. It still floats. The thing is, most spirits are tired of it. It's pretty boring, just floating around up there, and it's a lot of work. We're not so into work. He stuck his hands in his pockets and levitated, looking at the balloon. I'll make you a deal. Take a load off, relax for a couple days, and the balloon's all yours. We love company. May shook her head furiously. No, we've really got to get going. As she said it, May looked back toward the veil and felt a pang of regret. It was so lovely here. Zero put his hand on her shoulder and gave her a small look so careless and carefree. It put her worried frown to shame. Just kick back a bit, he urged. Death is good. That evening, May found Pumpkin sitting by the lagoon, singing to himself. When he saw her, he cleared his throat. Just watching Marco Polo, he nodded toward the lagoon. Several spirits were swimming around the lagoon, calling Marco. Every once in a while, a specter with a mustache and a three-pointed hat popped out of the water, yelling, Polo! That's me! May sat beside Pumpkin and dipped her feet in the water. Under the blue surface, the bottom of her shroud drifted off away from her feet, so that they appeared very alive. She wiggled her toes with pleasure. She looked about her and sighed wistfully. It felt so safe here in Risk Falls. Pumpkin noticed her thoughtfulness and moved closer behind her, dipping his own ghostly feet into the water next to hers. You look serious. May smiled at him. Do you think we need a rest, Pumpkin? She expected a resounding yes, but instead, Pumpkin looked pensive. You need to get home, he said finally. May wiggled her toes some more, staring at them. You're right. I feel like we should leave as soon as possible. This made Pumpkin waver. But things are good here. Even Beatrice looks well, not so sad. Pumpkin motioned to where Bee sat on the opposite side of the pond, mending clothes for some of the risk followers. She wasn't quite smiling, but as she worked, she wasn't quite wearing her thoughtful frown either. We could stay for just a day or two, May offered. Fabio, who'd apparently been eavesdropping from where he lay on the grass, thrust one finger up in the air and, without moving his head or even opening his eyes, said, "We stay." May looked at Pumpkin. "What do you think?" Pumpkin nibbled a finger. "Well, we have such a big thing to do," he said. "North Farm and all that, and it's so dangerous." He paused for a moment. "You know, I miss Arista. I miss my grave and the bee house." May thought back to Arista and his cozy little house in Belmorte, where Pumpkin had been a servant before setting out to accompany May on her journey. It seemed so strange and unfamiliar when Pumpkin had brought her there, but if she had known then what lay ahead of her, she might have nestled into Arista's snug guest room forever. It was a far cry from the dangerous heights of the Eternal Edifice, or the wilds of the North Farm. My dog is snoring a lot. "I know the sooner we get going, the better. I'll be home again, but..." He looked at May, his big black eyes thoughtful. "I'm tired of being afraid." May reached over and gave Pumpkin's hand a squeeze. He had already faced so many fears for her. There was something else that occurred. Wait, let me say that again. "I know the sooner we get going, the sooner I'll be home again, but..." He looked at May, his big black eyes thoughtful. "I'm tired of being afraid." May reached over and gave Pumpkin's hand a squeeze. He had already faced so many fears for her. Then something else occurred to her. Kitty. They couldn't leave him hidden alone for days. "Dudes!" Everyone in the Vale turned to see a blonde, pigtailed girl in scuba gear standing on the edge of the lagoon. Her arms wrapped around a squirming somber kitty. "I found a living cat!" She nodded toward the bundle in her arms and beamed at everyone. May's heart stood still. "Can we keep it?" The risk fathers swept toward Kitty. May leaped up to come to his aid. "Awesome!" somebody yelled. Somber Kitty let out a low meow and gave May a pitiful glance. May breathed a sigh of relief. Nobody seemed to mind that he was a fugitive. She turned to look at Pumpkin, Fabio, and Bee, who'd come over to investigate. "Okay, we can stay a few days. 3 if you want." She looked at Beatrice for approval. Pumpkin deserved a break. They all did. Bee looked unsure. She gazed at the faces of the other two, looking like she wanted to protest, but then she softened. "Well, if the others want to, I suppose we could." Pumpkin and Fabio let out hoots. Across the grass, Somber Kitty let out another meow, but nobody heard. Instinctively, May thought back to her telegram. Never forget the way back is forward. But she chose to ignore that for now. Just for the moment. 3 days, she repeated. Tops. What could happen in 3 days? And that's the end of chapter 6. All right. This will be the last chapter I'm going to read. It's only 5 pages. One, two, three, four. Yeah, 5 pages. All right, all right, all right. Chapter 7. Chapter 7. Forgetting the Lagoon. For several minutes, a cloud of dusk had been growing just south of Clevelville, number 135, announcing the approach of a group of riders. The cloud grew and grew until the riders came to a halt just outside the town gates. When the cloud settled, 6 figures clad in tattered red riding jackets and puffs of yellow lace at their throats emerged from the dust. Each sat astride a heaving, snarling gargoyle and held a riding crop in one hand and a pair of braided reins in the other. The riders circled the abandoned railroad tracks, studying the ground leaping in and out of the town. It wasn't long before one gestured to a single pair of footprints in the dirt. Only live ones leave footprints. Without delay, the wild hunters whipped their mounts into motion, following the tracks north. Ooh, what's gonna happen? Ooh, what's gonna happen? All right. The group settled into the paradisiacal vale as snugly as peas and rice. Captain Fabio introduced an Italian game called Who's Got the Spumoni? Who's Got the Spumoni? Which he won most of the time because he kept changing the rules. Beatrice, unable to get her hands on any new books or even one newspaper, as these things seemed to be absent from Risk Falls entirely, mended every piece of clothing in a vale, then started in on other projects, polishing the surfboards, dusting the tiki torches, scrubbing the ledge that led behind the water. Pumpkin and Somber Kitty started going on walks together, which surprised everyone. Somber Kitty would pass by May's doorway, turning occasionally to flick his tail at Pumpkin, hurrying him up. Pumpkin would drift along behind and give a quick wave to May as he floated past. May watched these comings and goings with a secret smile. From what she could gather, Pumpkin had already recognized Somber Kitty's willingness to listen to everything he had to say, and Somber Kitty had begun to appreciate Pumpkin's optimism. From time to time, Somber Kitty would prance back up to the room in a huff and leap onto May's lap after some unknown quarrel, and Pumpkin would scowl at him all through the evening's activities. The slippery rock relay, the ball of acid toss, the tightrope race across the ravine, and accused May of taking his side. But inevitably, they would trapeze off together the next morning as if nothing had happened at all. Fabio set up a cleaning detail to clear the veil of ghost weeds. Everyone who agreed to help, which meant Beatrice and May, met him at 5 every morning. Each day, most of the Risk Falls inhabitants, no matter how many limbs they were missing, took to the lake and floated on their backs. Only Somber Kitty lay on the edge, growling at the ripples, letting out a woeful chorus of meow, meow, meow. Having lost his owner to a water demon, he had more reason than most cats to be suspicious of water. May marveled at the bravery of the spirits of Risk Falls. They weren't scared of anything, not falling off cliffs or catching on fire or getting shot through the arrows. They shot one another quite frequently. They seemed to enjoy being dead with reckless abandon. Taken with the idea, May designed a barrel with rudders for the spirits to steer over the falls. She had she also forged a shortcut to the top of the cliffs that the others had never noticed. Invented a quick and easy way to reattach missing parts with paper clips, and showed everyone how to teach a cat to dance, even though it would never come in handy. Her students were delighted. But the thing the specters of Risk Falls liked most of all about Maybird was that she told the best stories. She had told them about she had told them only to Pumpkin at first. Stories about her mom, about Somber Kitty, the warrior cat, about Brewery Swamp and the people she imagined once lived there. She spun stories about White Moss Manor and its previous owners, including a woman named Bertha Brettwaller, rumored to have had horrible breath and to have walked out of the house one morning while looking for wild garlic, never to return. Adding details like this here and there, he listened raptly to story, May's histories, Summer Kitty snoozing at her side. Presently, they were joined by a couple of spirits who happened to overhear, and the number kept growing until the entire population of Risk Falls was gathered in the Vale every night to hear May recall the eternal edifice, the new Egyptians, the bogey, and the psychic beekeeper named Arista. They were good stories already, but May added flourishes and embellishments, colorful descriptions, passionate hand gestures, until every listener was under her spell, every ear trained on her very syllable. um, no, sorry. Uh, every ear trained on her every syllable. May found that when she was telling these stories, she forgot to be shy. She forgot to be shy at all. Beatrice, meanwhile, woke each morning to find bouquets littered outside her door from various admirers. Also, piles of laundry, but both made her flush with pleasure. Oddly, on the fourth day, not one of the travelers remembered that today was the day they'd planned to leave. Summer Kitty alone paced impatiently at the edges of the trees, trying to catch May's eyes. Whenever he did, he tried to wave her into the woods with his tail. But May, dripping in the invisible shroud that covered her sparkly bathing suit, which was slowly starting to lose its sparkle, would only smile at him in a lazy, relaxed way and go for another jump into the lagoon. May learned to shoot an arrow, to swing on a rope, and to do a back handspring. If anyone had noticed that she didn't float like everyone else, or that she was more colorful than the average ghost, they didn't say anything. But May began to think of herself not as a live one, but just but as just another spirit of Risk Falls. Uh, Bee found herself needed. Bee found herself needed and adored. Fabio found good-natured spirits, including Marco Polo himself, always willing to play by his rules, and Pumpkin had found a place to frolic. May, Bee said one morning when they were floating in the lagoon. It's odd, but sometimes I don't even remember why we're here. May crossed her arms beneath her head on her inner tube. I know. Do you think that's bad? Bee shrugged, then yawned. The two floated along in silence for some time. The day drifted. Their reason for being here, and their memories of the world beyond Risk Falls, became hazier and hazier. North Farm, with its ambiguous promise of home, grew farther and farther away. Outside Necromancy Nancy's snack shop, a figure in a red coat climbed down from his mount. With oily slickness, he held up one arm to indicate that the others should take care. With a tiny tilt of his head, he nodded to the front door. As the six crept toward the shack, a screech issued from inside, followed by a hurtling tea kettle. It flew through the window and whistled in the direction of the first hunter, who caught it with one white-gloved hand. He lunged toward the doorway and disappeared inside, dragging his attacker out into the open, pinning it to the ground under one black boot. The poltergeist squirmed and howled, but could not pry itself loose. A deep whisper issued from the hunter's black lips. Mecca Lecca, Hine Ho. That was poltergeist for Where Are They? And that is the end of chapter 7. Ooh boy! Ooh boy! Ooh boy! Okay, thank you for listening. I'm going to stop my recording now.